So for those who are here for the first time, we're going to have a little meditation, a little more meditation. And then we're going to have a talk on the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the postgraduate study of the Bhagavad Gita. I hope you find it interesting. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Sodanandana Radhijana Ranjana Jasodanandana Radhijana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Javihari Jaya Radha Madhava Javihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Sodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna. So we're going to read from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. For those of you that don't know, the Srimad Bhagavatam is 12 cantos. It's a big text. And it's actually, it's 18 volumes, about that big. It's big. So, and the way this book came about is there was a great king, King Parikshit, who was cursed to die in 7 days, and he couldn't counteract it. So he decided, well, let me find out what the goal of life is. Pretty smart. He's called a Rajarsi, saintly king. So there was a personality in the area called Sukadeva Goswami, and he was a very, very saintly personality. So for 7 days, this person, Sukadeva Goswami, spoke to Parikshit Maharaj. Now the first 9 cantos is explaining the glories of Krishna, or God. The 10th canto, he's speaking here, this verse here, he's speaking, Parikshit Maharaj, and he's asking to hear the glories of Krishna. So the whole 10th canto is all the glories of Krishna. So it's quite interesting. Actually, the 10th canto is the biggest canto, 90 chapters, and it's filled with wonderful pastimes of Krishna. So this is the Sanskrit. Nivartatarsar upagiyamana bhavaushara trotra monobirama kauttama shloka gunanuava pramang virajita vina pushugna. So this king says, glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is performed in the parampara system. That is, we lost the volume? Hare Krishna? Battery's dead? Okay. That is, it is conveyed from spiritual master to disciple. Such glorification is relished by those no longer interested in the false, temporary glorification of this cosmic manifestation. Descriptions of the Lord are the right medicine for the conditioned soul undergoing repeated birth and death. Therefore, who will cease hearing such glorification of the Lord except a butcher or one who is killing his own self? So there's many glories of Krishna. The first one is that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the Supreme Being. There's many gods. And many people think that in India it's all polytheistic, many gods. And there are many gods. Actually, there's 33 million gods, if you're wondering how many there were. Quite a few. They're demigods, most of them. But we're actually strong monotheists, one supreme God, and that's Krishna, from whom all other gods and we ourselves also are coming from. And he's very knowledgeable. Another glory of Krishna. Vedaham samatichani vartamanani charjana bhavishyami chabutani mamtuvena nakashana. This is the position of Krishna. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, I know everything that's happened in the past, everything that's happening right now, everywhere, and everything that's going to happen in the future. That's a lot of knowledge. So that's Krishna. One time I was, some of you may have heard this before, but it's kind of interesting. I was distributing books. My service is I distribute books at universities and parks. I was just at UCSD a few days ago. Nice campus. I heard there's some students here. How many students are here from UCSD? Oh yeah, very good. Okay, welcome. So I met one person, and we were talking, and so I asked him, so what kind of work do you do? He said, well, I'm God. I said, oh, it's a big position you got there. So I asked him, so what kind of, if you're God, then that means you're very knowledgeable. This God is very knowledgeable. Can you tell me what I'm thinking? He said, yes, you're thinking I'm a rascal. I said, very good, you're right. But I was also thinking of a number. Can you tell me that number? No. So there's a lot of cheaters out there, people that claim to be God, but aren't God. So, Vedaham samachitani. But he says, along with this, he goes on to say, but me, no one knows. We can know God to some degree. He's the creator. He's the cause of all causes. He's our Father, friend. But no one can know God completely because He's unlimited. And the Bhagavad Gita, it's very interesting that the Bhagavad Gita was spoken to a warrior, Arjuna, a great warrior. And Arjuna, he didn't want to fight because it was a fratricidal war. Just like here in America, we had a fratricidal war, the Civil War. Sometimes brothers fighting brothers, cousins fighting cousins. It must have been quite difficult for many of them. So there was a similar situation. Arjuna was asked to fight his cousins, his teacher, his grandfather, whom he loved very much. So he didn't want to fight. But it was a fight that was necessary for justice or for peace. Just like here on this planet we had the World War I and World War II, and basically Hitler wanted to take over the world, and he had to be stopped for peace. In order for there to be peace, there had to be more war. Otherwise we would all be speaking German here. So he had to be stopped. So sometimes war is necessary when there's an abundance of evil. So therefore Krishna was encouraging Arjuna to fight. And the whole purpose of the Bhagavad Gita was to convince Arjuna to fight. And Krishna can be pretty convincing. And he convinced them, and he fought, and he won. And Yudhisthira, another Rajarsi, he was a saintly king, King Yudhisthira. He was such a powerful personality, king also. But he was famous as someone who never told a lie. He had such integrity, such purity. So what's interesting is, although Krishna, he's so great, he's so powerful, the Supreme Being, what did he do in this battle against the evil Duryodhana and family? He was the charioteer of Arjuna. And charioteer means an Uber. He's a taxi driver. So this is God. He is so powerful, so great, but he's humble. He became a driver for his disciple, Arjuna. So that's some of the glories of Krishna. And another interesting thing is that before this battle, Arjuna and Duryodhana, they were going around trying to get warriors on their side in this battle. but neither one of them had gone to Krishna yet to ask him to be on their side. So Arjuna and Duryodhana happened to go to Krishna's home at the same time. Well, Krishna was resting, and Duryodhana was thinking, better I'm next to his head, so that when he wakes up, he'll see me and he'll want to fulfill my desires first. But Arjuna, he is the devotee of Krishna, so he thought, better I'm at his feet. So when Krishna transcendentally woke up, he saw Arjuna. He said, oh, Arjuna, you're here. And then he saw, oh, Duryodhana, you're here too. What's the occasion? And they said, well, we're going to have this war, and we just happen to be here at the same time. Fate. And we want you to be on our side. So Krishna said, well, I'm not going to fight. But I have an army. So, Arjuna, I saw you first. So you choose. You can either have me, but I'm not going to fight, or you can have my army. And Krishna had a big army. Anybody know how many Akshauhini? Huh? 4? Okay, he had 4 Akshauhini. It means millions. Millions of soldiers and horses and elephants. He had a big army. So Arjuna had first choice, because Krishna said, whatever you want. So Arjuna said, I'll take you, Krishna. Because he knew the greatness of Krishna. And Duryodhana's thinking, this guy must have gone nuts. You know? Krishna's not even going to fight. And he's just turned down his whole army. So Duryodhana's in ecstasy. He's so happy. He gets Krishna's army. But Arjuna is even happier because he gets Krishna. Which is more powerful than Krishna's whole army. So this is Krishna. They both walked away very happy. But in the end, Arjuna walks away the happiest. So it's mentioned here in this verse that his glories are relished by those that are not interested in the false, temporary, illusory pleasures of this world. So in order to understand the glories of Krishna, in order to understand God, we have to understand that there's no actual pleasure in this world, believe it or not. Might be a little bit shocking for some of you to hear. But the nature of this world is that everything is temporary here in this world. But what is our nature? Our nature is that we're eternal. We don't die. And therefore our pleasure, our actual real pleasure, should be in that area of eternal existence. We're the soul within. And all these material things, they're all temporary, so they're not going to satisfy the soul. No matter how you adjust it. You may think, well, if I get millions of dollars, then I'll be happy. But no. It's just dirty green paper, actually. It doesn't satisfy the soul. You can get things. You can get things with money, but things also, they don't bring happiness. What brings happiness is an understanding that we are, in reality, spirit souls. This body, it's a vessel. It's a vessel for the soul. It's going to die, but we aren't. We're going to continue. And if we develop a relationship with this Supreme Being, Krishna, a loving relationship, then we can go back to the spiritual world. This is our real home. But we have to understand that this so-called happiness in this world, it's temporary. As it's mentioned here, it's illusory. It's called Maya Sukhaya, illusory happiness. It's here today, gone tomorrow. Yeah. Just like someone might get a job that they really like. They've had their job for maybe a couple of weeks, now they really like it. But then after some time, it wears out. Just like I had a friend, he was going to Stanford University. And he really liked it. The students are nice, the campus is nice. He was a freshman. He had just been there for a few weeks. And he said, "Oh yeah, I really like it. It's nice campus, nice professors." But then I talked to him 4 years later. He was still going there. He said, "Oh man, I got to get out of here. This place is just driving me nuts." So this is the nature of this world. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they get married, and after some time they get divorced. I think it's like 50% after, I don't know how many years, like 10 years or something. So much divorce, unfortunate. But it gets old. Things in this world, they get old. But Krishna, he doesn't get old. He's an ever-fresh youth. And the nature of this world is that the closer we get to material things, you lose the taste after some time. But it's complete opposite with Krishna. The more you spend time with Krishna, it becomes sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. It's better and better and better. The glories of Krishna are enhanced, and they experience great happiness. It's like there was one king, Jamunacharya. He was a powerful king. Now, before his becoming a king, he was a student in an ashram in India, and he had a guru, and he was a very good student. He was very studious. He would study the scriptures, and he knew many verses from the scriptures. Very, very wonderful, saintly child. But somehow, by the arrangement of Krishna, he became a king. And there was one friend of his who, upon being in the presence of his spiritual master who was leaving this world, he asked the spiritual master, "Is anything I can do? You're leaving this world. Is there anything I can do for you?" He said, "Yes. My disciple who is now a king, I want you to make him a devotee again." And his name was Jamunacharya. So Jamunacharya, he was a king, so he lived all kinds of opulent ways, and he had so much sense gratification. So this person who was asked to help this Jamunacharya, he had to come up with some good preaching tactics to convince him to give up his worldly ways. So I won't go, it's a whole long story, I won't go into the whole story. But he was convinced that this materialistic life, it's nothing compared to real spiritual life. And he became a great, great saintly person in India. To this day he's famous as being a great acharya, great devotee, saintly person. And he wrote many books. And the most famous of all the verses, stanzas that he wrote, is this one I'm going to sing to you right now. Yadabadhi mamacheta Krishna padara vindindavandava rasidani rantimasi tadavadhi bhatanari sangame smayamani bhavati mukhavikara sushtu nistivanamcha. Now remember, this is a person who was very, very sensuous, engaging in so much sexual activity, but he says, since I've been engaged in the loving service of Krishna, experiencing ever fresh pleasure at every moment, whenever I think of sex desire, I spit at the thought, and my lips curl in distaste. Now he had it. He had it all. He had all the sense gratification, but he got a higher taste. There's a higher taste that the soul can experience, which is much higher than anything you could experience in this world through material sense gratification. It's called devotional service. Not just service, but service with devotion to Krishna. And there's millions of people throughout the world here that are engaged in this devotional service, and it's very satisfying to the soul. It's very satisfying to the mind. So much so that one is not interested in the so-called pleasures of this world. You know, the pleasures of this world is also compared to a mirage. We've all had the experience. You're going down the street, long street, and it's hot out, highway, and it looks like there's water. There's no water. It's a mirage. So material sense gratification is like that. It appears like there's pleasure there, but it's a mirage. It feeds you on. It makes it look like, it makes you think that there's some pleasure there. But it's Maya Sukhaya. It's illusory. It's a mirage. It's not real pleasure. Just like in the mirage, it appears like there's water. There's no water there. It's just hot cement. But there is water, but not there. Similarly, it appears like there's pleasure in this world. And there is, but it's not here. Although you can also experience pleasure in this world, but in devotional service to Krishna. This is the pleasure of the soul. This is what we're searching for. And therefore there's devotees in this movement that have been practicing Krishna consciousness now for 50 years, 45, 50 years, 52 years. We have Bharinraya Maharaj since 1969. And not engaged in any material sense gratification. But they're happy. Yeah, they're happy. This is the result of devotional service, of connection to Krishna. So here in this verse by Parikshit Maharaj, he says that this hearing of the glories of Krishna, this is the medicine that can cure us of a major disease, much, much bigger than COVID-19. The disease is Bhavaroga. It's the disease of the cycle of samsara, of birth and death. See, none of us want to die, right? None of us want to get old or get diseased. So this is the disease, birth, death, old age, and disease. This is so. By hearing the glories of Krishna, we become purified. And actually the nature of the soul is to be pure. And by connection to Krishna, we become purified. Another disease is called the ahankara, the false ego. It's a pandemic. False ego means false understanding of who we are. Like if we're thinking that I'm a man, or I'm a woman, or I'm American, or I'm Chinese, or I'm Indian, this is illusion. This is called false ego. We're none of these things. This is all temporary. Our position is that we're the eternal soul within, and the nature of the soul is eternality, knowledge, and bliss. So this is the nature of the soul. This is who we are. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he says, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavihastini Suni Chaiva Sapakecha Pandita Samadarshana. that the learned sages, they see with equal vision the Brahmana, the cow, the elephant, the dog, and the dog eater. Now, how could they see equally all these different bodies? Because they see beyond the body. With knowledge, they see that everybody is a soul. With all the advancement we have now in science, we have a lot of advancement now in science, isn't it? But with all the advancement, they have not come to understand what is consciousness. Isn't it? Haven't a clue what is consciousness. Scientists are still trying to figure it out. They're bewildered. What is consciousness? So Krishna explains what is consciousness in the Bhagavad Gita. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kamaram yovaram jara. That as the embodied soul continually passes through this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly the soul passes into another body at the time of death. So the consciousness is the soul. That's who we are. And it's explained, Krishna says also, that the soul, it's so powerful that you can't destroy it. Even with the most powerful nuclear bomb, you can't kill the soul. It's so powerful. You can't burn it with fire. Practically everything can be burned with fire, isn't it? But not the soul. Can't be withered by the wind. You can't drown the soul. It's very powerful. So this is the medicine for overcoming this disease of false ego. Now some people, they say, well, I'm a free spirit. Any ever heard that before? I'm a free spirit. But actually, to be a free spirit, you have to be very pure. Free of false ego. Free of the modes of nature. The Bhagavad Gita explains a lot about the modes of nature. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. So to be a free spirit means that one is so pure that one has realized that I'm not this body. Just like our Srila Prabhupada, the founder, acharya of this society, he was a free spirit. Because he had complete realization that he is the soul within. And he was so complete in his realization that he convinced thousands and thousands of people here in the West and Europe and all over the world that they are also spirit, not this body, the eternal servant of Krishna. So this is our natural position. To live as a soul, not to live thinking that we're this material body. That just brings frustration. It's like anybody here know what the biggest disease now in the world is? I'm not talking about COVID-19. Anybody besides that? Huh? Yes. Stress, depression. It's the biggest disease in the world now. People are stressed out. I have one friend, she was distributing books, and she was talking to one man who worked at a pharmacy. And she asked him, so what drug is selling the most now in the pharmacy? He said, Maalox. Maalox, I don't know if they still use it, but it was for ulcers. Because people are stressed out, they get ulcers. So Maalox was the biggest selling drug. Stress. But the more we understand that we're the soul within, we're the eternal servants of Krishna, and we try to serve Krishna, and try to serve others, also try to help others, the more we will feel great happiness within. This is what we all want, happiness, right? Yonta sukotara ramas. Krishna says that one whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, he's understood to be already liberated. So our real happiness is within, not just getting things, getting all these things. No. No. An example is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam of a deer who was in the forest, and the deer was thirsty, practically dying of thirst, but couldn't see where's the water. Didn't know that there's water nearby, but it's covered by the grass, and went in the wrong direction and died of thirst. So people don't know that the happiness that they're all searching for is within, but they're going all over the place, all over the world, looking for some happiness. No, look within. Yeah. Within is not only the soul, but there's a super soul. I remember when I was a child, my mother used to say, "Now you be good, because God's looking after you. He sees what you're doing." And I would look up, I don't see any God around here. You know what you're talking about. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, Upadrasthana mantacha bharta bhokta maheshvara paramatmeti chapkyuto dehesmin purushapara. Within this body, there's another transcendental enjoyer. He's known as the super soul. And he's the enjoyer. He's the proprietor. He's the overseer and he's the permitter. So within us is an expansion of Krishna called the Paramatma, the super soul. And he's been with us ever since we left the spiritual world, waiting for us to turn to him again and serve him and be happy. So we have to look within, and we'll find that unlimited joy that we're all searching for. This is what we all want, right? Unlimited, not just some temporary flickering happiness. No, everybody wants happiness that's going to continue on, unlimitedly, isn't it? This is what we all want. Nobody wants happiness that's going to come to a certain level and then stop. Who wants that? Isn't it? So this is the nature of the soul. You can experience unlimited happiness, always increasing. And this process of as we were doing earlier, we're doing this meditation. This purifies the heart, purifies the mind. And we experience a great happiness. Now here, this verse goes on to say that who will not want to hear such glorification but the person who is a butcher or someone who is killing his own self? Interesting statement there by Parikshit Maharaj. Because if someone is killing, then it's very difficult to understand subtle subject matters. Well, what we're talking about here is very subtle. We're talking about the soul. We're talking about God who is everywhere. It's very subtle. So to understand these things, we have to have a clear consciousness. But if someone is killing animals, then it's very difficult to understand such subtle subject matter. I'll tell you an interesting thing that happened. There was one great saintly person. His name is Narada Muni. And he's a transcendental traveler. He travels all over the place. So he happened to be in a forest. And in this forest, he saw that there was animals that were half killed. Someone was shooting these animals, but wouldn't kill them. He would only half kill them. His name was Mrigari. And Narada Muni was thinking, who would do such a thing? Just half kill him. So finally he found the person that's shooting these animals. And he said to him, why? Why are you half killing them? Why don't you just kill them all the way, put them out of their misery? And he said, well, this is the way I've been trained by my father. And Narada Muni said, well, you're going to get big reactions for this. Karma. Whatever we do comes back to us. So you're going to suffer so much in your future lives due to this sinful activity. So the man he could see Narada Muni's spiritual advancement. So he asked him, so well, what can I do to overcome this, to avoid this? He said, break your bow, break your arrows, stop this. And he said, well, how will I survive? This is how I live. He said, don't worry, I'll take care of everything. So he had faith in this spiritual master. So he did. He broke his bow, broke his arrows, stopped his killing. He said, now you go and you bring your wife and you follow me. So he took him to a place on the bank of the Ganges where there's a tulsi plant, sacred tulsi plant. He said, you sit here and you just chant Hare Krishna and everything will come. So he had faith. He just sat it and he chanted Hare Krishna like we were just doing earlier. And word got out that Mrigari, the butcher, the killer of animals, he's become a saint. And they were all shocked, like, how is this possible? So people were coming, they wanted to see for their own eyes. So the custom in India is that whenever you visit a saintly person, you give something. Give some donation, some contribution. So people were coming, they were given some money, some were given fruits and vegetables, and the word really got around, and people were coming, they're giving so much. He was getting too much. So sometime later, Narada Muni came to visit him. And he had one friend, Parvata Muni. So he said, Parvata Muni, you want to see something amazing? Come, I want to show you something amazing. So they were walking towards Mrigari, and Mrigari saw his spiritual master coming. So he started running to see Narada Muni. But he was jumping. He was like jumping like this. And when he reached Narada Muni, of course he paid respects to him. And Narada Muni asked him, why were you jumping like this? What was it? He said, well, as I was coming, there was ants, and I didn't want to step on the ants. You see the difference in consciousness? He was half killing animals. And after association with Narada Muni, which is similar to our Srila Prabhupada, he wouldn't step on an ant. Good consciousness. Such a change in consciousness. So that's the actual goal of the human form of life, is to have a change in consciousness. A subtle change in consciousness. Understanding who we are. Who God is. How to establish, how to have this relationship grow. So, another interesting story about this one king, again, another nice story of a king and his secretary. They were out from the kingdom, they were walking around, and they saw there was one saintly person who was given a discourse. He was speaking on the Bhagavad Purana, which is what this is here. And as he was speaking about life and death. Who should live, who should die? He said the saintly person, the pure devotee, he could live or die. It doesn't matter, because while he's living, he's serving Krishna. And so he was speaking, and he's uh-oh, my computer's going crazy. Shiri. So he said the saintly person can live or die, because in this life he's living such a wonderful life. He's so happy serving Krishna and preaching the message of Krishna, and everything is wonderful in his life. There's no anxiety. He's just in Vaikuntha. He's so happy. And when he leaves this world, when he leaves his body, when the soul leaves, he goes back to Krishna. So if he's living, wonderful. If he dies, wonderful. No problem. Then the brahmachari die immediately, because he does sacrifice, he does austerities, but he's young, he can be prey to Maya. So therefore he said die immediately, so he could accept the results of his pious activities. He said the prince should live, don't die. Whoever has a phone, maybe you could turn off your phones. So he said the prince should just live, don't die. And the butcher, don't live, don't die. Because the butcher is mentioned here. So after they heard this discourse, the king and the secretary, they heard discourse, and so they left, and the king said, can you explain what he was saying there? So he, of course, the saintly person explained how the pure devotee, the pure saint, he could live or die, he's in ecstasy. Then he explained how the prince, he should continue living because he's committed so much sinful activity. He's going to get so much reaction for his sinful activities that he's just going to suffer so much. So just live on. Don't die, because you don't want to die. And the butcher, he's living a horrible life, killing animals. I mean, so many people eat meat in this country, but if the people in this country were to see slaughterhouses, if they were like here, we have the Balboa Park here. You know, if there was a slaughterhouse there and you could see the animals being killed, I guarantee, if everybody in this country saw a slaughterhouse, I guarantee you, vegetarian would rise like anything. If people could see what's going on. These slaughterhouses are way off, 100 miles away. No one sees what's going on. Yeah. But if people were to see, there'd be a big change in people's diet in this country, I guarantee it, because it's horrific. It's horrible. So, anyway, I think maybe I've gone, what time is it? 7:19, okay. Thank you very much. Is there any question or comment?
We don't want to extend too far because they're all waiting for prashadam.
Oh, right. Okay.
But because you asked, just one question. You know, your brother told you got to be good because God sees everything, and you looked around and said, "Where's God?" Well, yeah. I mean, like, I used to believe in Santa Claus, you know. Be good for goodness sake because he sees when you're, you know, sleeping, he sees when you're awake. But I grew out of believing in Santa Claus. I hope there's nobody too young here. I don't want to pop anybody's illusion. But, you know, I grew out of it. So you're saying there's God who sees everything and we've got to suffer our reactions for our mistake. I don't buy it. I just say you've created some man in the sky who sees what we're doing to create fear and, you know, spook people into morality. I don't buy it.
In case you don't know, he's playing devil's advocate.
Yes.
It's a good one. Throughout the world, throughout the world, we see so many amazing things happening. Wonderful things happen to people, and unfortunate things happen to people. And so why? Why are all these things happening? There's someone behind all this. It's like they have this book, Why do bad things happen to good people? Yeah. Actually, bad things don't happen to good people. Within everyone, there's the super soul who's in control. Whatever we do, if we do something good, it comes back to us. If we do something bad, it comes back to us. So there's someone seeing all this. Yeah. And also just the creation is so amazing. Just like we're born. It's such an amazing thing. Just some liquid going into the womb of a woman, and the body is growing in the womb. And there's a brain. Everything's growing at once. It's like on these conveyor belts, they're building all these machines. They put one thing in at a time, right? One thing at a time they put in. But these bodies, they're growing all at the same time in the womb, and then they come out. Everything is working. It's amazing. It's mystical. It's completely amazing. So there's a God that's doing it. It's not by accident, and He's watching us. Yeah, I have the experience all the time. So we have to be careful about what we're doing. We're responsible about what we do. So maybe maybe one question from the guest, if there's any question? So, yes, we have a question up here in the front. No, we have because we have internet also. Yeah. You're being heard all over the world now.
So you said we all have a problem of
You
ego.
can take your mask off. Just for the question, you could take your mask.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
So you said we
Put
all...
your mic closer then.
So you said we all have a problem of having ego, and then you said...
Having
Ego.
ego, yeah, false
Yeah.
ego, okay.
Yeah, it's false ego. So how do we get rid of that problem?
Okay. You see, ego just means identity. There's the false ego, and there's the real ego. So if you just plug into the real ego, what's the real ego? What's our real ego? Do you know? Anybody know what is our real identity here, besides the monks? Yes. Yes. Our real ego is that we're souls, we're part and parcel of Krishna, eternal servants of Krishna. So if we just awaken that reality, then the false ego is finished. Yeah, it's over.
And how do we do that?
Chant Hare Krishna. We were doing that earlier. This is the process in this age for becoming free of all impurities, all contamination, all illusion. Very powerful mantra. It's mantra meditation, but it's also a prayer, and we're praying to Krishna. Krishna, please engage me in your loving service. So it's a prayer to Krishna, and it's also a meditation to purify the mind, to purify the heart. And also reading Bhagavad Gita. You have Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah.
Have you read it yet?
No, I just read some
Yeah,
chapters.
it's
but
amazing.
I need to understand.
I distribute books, and I meet so many Hindus, and 99% of them don't read the Bhagavad Gita. It's amazing. It's shocking, because the first time I found it, I read it in 7 days. I couldn't put it down.
Wow.
It was so amazing. But the Hindus, it's born on their lap and they won't read it. It's on their lap when they're born, but they don't read it. You should all read the Bhagavad Gita, especially Bhagavad Gita as it is. This as it is that we have, Prabhupada translated.
Yeah.
That's the one that convinced all of us, Americans and Europeans and people all over the world, to serve Krishna. So, highly recommended book to read. We have them here in the store, I believe. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, now we're going to have... Oh, we have one more question. Yes. Well,
I think it's not a question.
all right.
I think it's not a question. Just
Oh.
one thing clicked to my mind when she was asking
Okay.
about the false ego. What I'm not sure. Like, I want to make it more clear from you as a guru. Like, so is it another sense? False ego means I.
Yeah.
If we remove that
I and mine.
I, because this life is like sharir madhyam sarva dharma khalu sadhanam. Opportunity is given by Lord Krishna
Yeah.
to serve in the path of dharmas.
Thank you.
Is that?
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you.